All right. Good evening to anybody and everybody that may be out there listening to this now or in the future. As you can see, we are flying solo today, so I am flying without Tyler this evening. Him and his family are out of town, taking themselves a nice little vacation. So just going to be me flying solo for a little bit with everybody here. Probably take this thing about 30 minutes or so, not take it too long, anything like that. Just a couple quick things that I wanted to cover. Of course, try to keep our cadence that we've set up. Would hate to miss a show as early as week 2. As you can see, a little bit more of an informal broadcast. I'm letting the hair hang down today, but I still got the headband on. No contacts, but we got the glasses on. Hopefully it's not too bad of a glare for anybody. Cool. So we're going to roll right into everything here. So first thing that I want to go through with everybody, just some roster updates. And anybody who follows the Cowboys pretty avidly could tell you that it has not been a great week to be a Cowboys fan as far as roster is concerned. Of course, after the game Thursday night, we found out that we were losing Michael Gallup probably for a 3 to 5 week period. So we're basically going to be without him for the first month of the season. La'el Collins' suspension comes down just a couple days later. Still pending some appeals there, but that looks like a 5-game suspension. If we know anything about the NFL, they're not really good about backing down or finding middle grounds. They are probably going to stick him with that 5-game suspension. So we can probably bank on losing him for the first month and a half of the season as well. Then Randy Gregory test positive for COVID. Still waiting to see if there's any, double negatives to come the very last minute as Jerry, if anybody listens to his interviews on the radio or on TV, loves to give us that little bit of hope, little sliver of hope that maybe he might be out there, but I would say highly unlikely. And then the big one, Demarcus Lawrence. Wednesday afternoon, reports start coming out that he was taken off the field. Helped off, not carted off. Had a foot injury. Didn't know the severity of it, anything like that. And then we wake up the next morning to find out he has a broken foot. Has surgery that next day. Broken 5th metatarsal. That's a big loss. That one really hurts. These other ones were already going to be tough, but those we kind of have a more definitive timeline. Randy Gregory probably going to be just like Zach Martin, only miss 1 game. Collins and Gallup, we know, they're going to be gone for the first month or so. D-Law still kind of has an indefinite timeline right now. These foot injuries, they can be super tricky, especially when you have a break like that. Us Cowboy fans definitely remember Dez Bryant breaking feet, his bones in his feet. And really, ultimately, I think a lot of people could point to that and say that in part kind of started the end of his career as a Cowboy and ultimately what looks like to be, the virtual end of his career in the NFL. This is a tough one. Some people are saying 4 to 6 weeks. You're hearing 2+ months. I've even heard some doubt that he may not be back this season. So there's really no clue, when it comes to Demarcus Lawrence. Really no idea when he's going to be back, hopefully sooner than later. Some optimism that, maybe we get him back sometime around the bye week in week 7. But again, that's a very quick recovery. Foot injuries, broken bones, stuff like that. That's just not something that you really want to rush back from, not something you want to play around with. That's something that could be detrimental at a career level if he were to stretch it too far. So that's a big one there. So no Collins, no Gallup, no Gregory, now no D-Law. We're getting really thin across the board. A lot of the guys that we count on to be out there are not going to be out there this week, and some of them for multiple weeks. So that's tough one there. A couple more notes. So Terrence Steele is going to be your starting right tackle tomorrow. Again, anybody who watched the 2020 Cowboys with Dak Prescott and then ultimately Andy Dalton, Ben DiNucci, and whoever the hell else we threw out there that last year is probably not super thrilled to be seeing Terrence Steele back out there, getting another go at right tackle this week. So, some like myself had really hoped that the Cowboys would adopt the best five mentality and move Zach Martin out to right tackle, place Connor McGovern there at right guard. He had a decent game last week, looked pretty good. Definitely think that I'd rather have him on the field than Terrence Steele. But it just doesn't look like the Cowboys are really willing to do that unless it's an absolute emergency situation. So Zach Martin is going to be your right guard. Terrence Steele is going to be your right tackle for better or for worse. A couple other things to note. Ty Nsekhe, who is going to be your swing tackle for this game, is also out. So that Zach Martin emergency rip cord may be coming sooner than anybody would really like. Donovan Wilson, still no word on for sure whether or not he'll play this week. That's your strong safety. He did not practice all week. He's been battling a quad issue. Sounds like it might have been something that's been lingering for, the better part of a month or so. So we'll see if he gets to suit up as well. DeMonte KZ, your safety on the other side, limited practice the last couple days. He's questionable to play. I would think he's still going to suit up. Bright side there, if KZ is one that goes down and we need to find some backup help there, it does sound like Malik Hooker is ready to roll. He's 100% healthy and he's ready to get in the mix. I've said it in the past. I've said it on this show, on our first show. If they're fully healthy, the guy that I want out there is Malik Hooker. I think he's the best safety on this team when healthy. KZ had a nice game week 1, and he's had some nice games in his career as well, some nice seasons. But I'll take Malik Hooker if he's 100% healthy. So we'll see how that plays out. And then one of your rookies, we may see him a little bit this week. Didn't get to see him in week 1, Chauncey Golston. That's your third round defensive end. He was a full practice all week. Now he's basically been out all training camp, all preseason, so he hasn't gotten a lot of work in. So we'll see how many snaps he actually gets. I think realistically, maybe he gets 10, 15 plays in, if even that many. But we'll just see. That defensive line may need him to play more than you might think he would, given that with Demarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory are both out for this game. On the Chargers side, their list is much shorter than ours, but a couple of key pieces missing this week that could really help the Cowboys when it comes to getting to that potential W that we're all going to be looking for this week. So a couple big names. Brian Bulaga, the right tackle out there. Already not a top tier right tackle, but, even to have an NFL starting right tackle to be missing a game, that definitely should help with the depleted pass rush core. Hopefully we can see Micah Parsons coming off the edge. Maybe we get some Dorrance Armstrong action. A couple of those guys to mix in, apply a little bit of pressure on that left side of the line, see what we can do to shake things up with Brian Bulaga being out. And then a really big one, they're missing their best corner this week, y'all. So no Chris Harris. That's your slot corner. That's probably your man that's guarding CD on the majority of his routes. No Chris Harris this weekend. The other two corners aren't really much to speak of from what I've seen, from what I've heard. So that is a really big win for an extremely talented Cowboys wide receiver core. So that's pretty much it as far as roster updates are concerned. Want to talk about some of the top storylines that we're watching, some things to take note of, and then some key matchups to watch as well. So a couple different things that we're looking at here. Thing number one for me, and as I've said in the past here, I'm very big on the NFL draft. Probably my favorite part of the entire NFL process from front to back is just analyzing the draft, doing a little bit of scouting on the college players, trying to figure out where they're going to fall. And two guys that were talked about pretty heavily with the Cowboys pick. A lot of people like me that were kind of down on Parsons, which I've apologized for already. For note there. If you haven't heard my apology, it's in a previous show. I promise I did it. I was wrong about Parsons. The dude's a stud. He just is. Best linebacker on your team right now. But a guy that I was looking at ahead of him, and given the offensive line issues that we've had, already the first 2 weeks of the season, with Zach Martin being out last week, with La'el Collins being out this week, maybe a guy that you could still make a case for there, and a guy that I probably would, is Rashaan Slater. So he's playing left tackle out there for the Chargers right now, as a rookie, day one. He wouldn't play left tackle here, of course. You've got Tyron Smith. But I gladly would have put him at right guard last week. I gladly would put him at right tackle this week and be much happier than Terrence Steele or Connor McGovern. So that's something to watch there. Rashaan Slater, looking at him last week, those Chargers, they went up against that Washington football team pass rush, supposed to be one of the best front lines, front sevens in the entire game, and they stonewalled them. That should be terrifying. Rashaan Slater was going up against Chase Young, and Chase Young couldn't get a sack off of him. They couldn't touch Justin Herbert last week, which definitely should make you nervous when it comes to our defensive line, because obviously we don't have the names up and down that Washington does. But this is something that Rashaan Slater has done in the past. This isn't new for him. He went up against Chase Young in college, and that was some of his best college tape. That was about the one guy, when you went through Chase Young's tape in his college and his draft, that you said Chase Young couldn't get by. Rashaan Slater was that dude. He went up against Chase Young and he beat him. He whooped him, and he did it again last week. Nothing new for him. So that dude's a stud. Definitely something to watch out for. I'm going to be all over that, all season long, and probably even into their careers, because that pick right there, a lot of people wanted that to be the Rashaan Slater pick. I wanted that to be the Rashaan Slater pick. Ultimately, I think Micah Parsons is going to be a really good player, with the potential to be great. He could be one of the best linebackers in the league. And if he can really rush the passer the way that he looks like he can, if he can carry receivers and running backs across the middle of the field, tight ends like it looks like he can, and, if he can get sideline to sideline the way that we know he can, it'll probably be worth that pick. Only time will tell if we should have taken Slater there. Hindsight's always 20/20, of course, but that'll be a fun matchup for me in particular to watch. Because I'm a big fan of the draft, and I was a really big fan of Rashaan Slater coming out of the draft this year. A couple other things that I'm looking at. What does Dak in this offense do for an encore? Dak went out there last week, and, everybody's seen the stats, 400-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, most dropbacks in his entire, NFL career, coming off of an ankle surgery and a supposedly bummed shoulder during the preseason. Just an outstanding game, one of the best games I've seen him play ever in his career. And I would think most of us would probably agree with that, against the Super Bowl winning defense. So just phenomenal stuff there. But what does he come out and do this week? He doesn't have a Super Bowl winning defense to go against this week. He doesn't have that same front or those same secondary pieces or those same linebackers. The Chargers have some good names. They have some good defensive pieces, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I'm having a feeling that Dak and these wide receivers are going to go and cut him up, even without Michael Gallup. No Chris Harris. Nobody's guarding CD in the slot. The outside corners, they can't guard Amari anyway. If CD's outside, they're not going to be able to guard him out there either. Move Cedric Wilson to the slot so he can get open easier across the middle of the field. I just think that these weapons are going to have a great day. I think Zeke is going to come out. I think he's going to play a great game. And I think Dak is just going to keep doing what I said he's going to do from the preseason, and he's going to put his stamp on that MVP conversation. He is going to be there. And the sooner everybody gets on the bandwagon, the better for all of us. So Dak, I think, is going to have a big game. One interesting note that we caught last week, when it comes to his development, one thing you're looking at for a quarterback is just that cerebral ability, right? To process the play pre-snap, to see what's going on, to be able to read the defense, identify the blitzes, check out of a play if necessary, check into a play if necessary, keep the play, whatever that may be. And that's one thing that people have really talked about Dak about, when the younger in his career, that maybe he didn't have that same processing capability as the stud quarterbacks do. Well, what we saw from Dak Prescott last week was that Kellen Moore called 28 run plays last week. Say that again. Kellen Moore called 28 run plays. Of those 28 run plays last week, Dallas ran 12. That means Dak Prescott checked out of 16 runs because he was reading the defense. He knew Tampa wasn't going to let them get anything. And look, we saw it, right? The 11, 12 times that they ran the ball that game, the 9 or so touches that Zeke got, a couple touches that Pollard got, they were going like 3 yards a carry. They didn't get anywhere. They were getting hit at the line, behind the line, a yard or two behind, in front of the line. They weren't going anywhere with that. And Dak could see that. And Dak, younger, earlier in his career, younger Dak, and we've seen it, right? He would go with that. We remember the year against the Eagles where Amari Cooper had to tell him, hey, call that hot route. They're playing up on me. We're going to blow by them. And we got the audio where Dak really didn't want to check out of it. But when he did, they threw a touchdown. So, we've seen that as recent as just a couple years ago where Dak wasn't always so willing to check out of those plays and really take command of what was going on in the game at the line. So for him to check out of 16 run plays and say, I got this, put the team on his back, and read the defense well, right? Because again, the completion percentage numbers were off the chart. The yardage was off the chart. He had 3 touchdowns. So it would be hard to make a case that he's making the wrong decision by checking out of those run plays and into those pass plays. So I'd definitely be looking for more of that this year, heading into this week as well. Just checking in and out of plays, really taking command of the line. I thought that was a major piece of that performance last week that may have gone unnoticed more so by some of the general public. A couple other things that I'm looking at. Wide receiver secondary matchups. I've already kind of talked about that a little bit. I think Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are going to go bonkers. I won't do a whole fantasy segment today, but if you want some fantasy advice real quick, start CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, please. Wide receiver ones, both of them this week. They're going to ball out. There's a really decent chance they have consecutive 100-yard touchdown games. And I wouldn't be surprised to see both of them get double-digit targets and 7 to 10 catches apiece. So definitely think that the receivers are going to go absolutely bonkers in this game because that Chargers secondary just doesn't have the firepower to stay with them, especially with no Chris Harris there in the slot to help that piece out. Couple other things that we're looking at here. What's going on in the trenches, right? No D-Law, no Randy Gregory. What are we going to get from guys like Dorrance Armstrong? Terrell Basham is a guy that, we brought on in this offseason to be a pass rusher. He's probably going to come in, be that left end to replace Demarcus Lawrence. Probably see Dorrance on the right side. Just got to figure out where the pressure is going to come from. Even with Lawrence and Gregory last week, we couldn't touch Brady. No sacks in the first week of the season. And now down our 2 best pass rushers. I just really hope that Dan Quinn has something dialed up to get these boys moving, to get Herbert, moving around in that pocket and uncomfortable. Because Justin Herbert, that looks like a legit QB1 in this league. He had a great rookie season, came out and had a nice game against Washington last week. Again, one of the better defenses in the league with one of the best defensive fronts in the league. That's got to make you a little bit nervous. He's a guy that's not so much like Brady. He's a big arm guy. He's got a ton of mobility. He can get outside of the pocket. He can move. He can work. He can extend plays. And again, he's got a couple really solid receivers of his own that make you nervous if they extend plays. You've got guys like Mike Williams out there. You've got Keenan Allen out there. Keenan Allen is going to be a problem. I would say that Keenan Allen is probably going to have a really nice day. I'll be interested to see how the Cowboys play defense on these receivers. Obviously, they don't have the receiving core of Tampa. It's not Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown, which is just absurd. But I'll be interested to see what they do. Last week, if you look at the matchup, Trayvon Diggs followed Mike Evans on almost 100% of his snaps. Pretty much where Evans was, Diggs was. And that's not something that we've seen from Diggs before. Last year as a rookie, he was your left corner. That's what he did. He played on that side of the field. Didn't matter who was there. He was matched up against them. Um, Last week, we watched him follow Mike Evans. I wonder, is the game plan here that we are going to have Trayvon Diggs follow the team's best wide receiver, in which case he would be following Keenan Allen all over the field, which I'll be honest, I don't know that I love that matchup. I think Diggs will probably get burned a couple times in that matchup. Anybody in the secondary would. Keenan Allen is a stud wide receiver. That's a real wide receiver one right there. Um, Not a guy that you mess around with. Or are we going to stick to the big body theme, right? Mike Evans is a big 6'4" guy, straight line speed, get downfield, go up and get it. And that's a problem for a lot of corners in the league. One guy that's not a problem for, as clearly evidenced by last week's performance, Trayvon Diggs. So, I've heard talk, on the radio that I listen to, different YouTube channels as well, great content creators on here, talking about that, the idea that maybe you let Trayvon Diggs travel with Mike Williams and you just take him out of the game. Because again, I think Keenan Allen's going to get off on anybody. I don't know that Trayvon Diggs following him is going to neutralize him the way that he was able to neutralize Mike Evans last week. I do think that he could potentially do the same thing to Mike Williams, who is similar to Evans in some ways, but honestly nowhere near the NFL player that Mike Evans is. Mike Williams is a good NFL receiver, don't get me wrong, but he's not Mike Evans. But then maybe you could look at, doing some stuff where you more play a bracket with Keenan Allen, right? Match up, whichever corner, whether it's Lewis or Anthony Brown, give him some safety help over the top, give him some linebacker help inside. And so you kind of have help wherever he goes on the field when he runs his route. And maybe you just try to take Keenan Allen out of the game that way. And you let Trayvon follow Mike Evans or Mike Williams. So that'll be interesting to watch and see what they do, particularly with Trayvon Diggs, to see how he can impact the secondary here and where that will go. Couple final pieces here, y'all, and then I'm going to boogie on out of here. We are going to do our weekly Cowboys win, lose, if, and then I'll go ahead and give my final prediction for the game tomorrow before I sign off. So we'll start with Cowboys win if. The Cowboys win if the wide receivers have a field day, right? I've already kind of talked about this. If we get out on that field snap one and we just see that there is no chance in hell, no chance that this secondary can run with Amari Cooper or CD Lamb or Cedric Wilson. We can even extend it to the tight ends, right? Who's going to cover Jarwin and Schultz? Who's going to cover Zeke and Pollard coming out of the backfield? The Cowboys win if the weapons have a heyday, and I legitimately think that there's a good chance that could happen. That offense is without La'el Collins, but it's got Zach Martin back, which may give you the opportunity to run a little bit more, than maybe what we had last week. Really what it's going to come down to is not whether the secondary can hang with them, because I just don't think that that's a thing. I don't think it's possible. I think really what it's going to come down to is Joey Bosa. And that's where I'll go with, the Cowboys lose if Joey Bosa takes this thing over, right? If Joey Bosa just destroys Terrence Steele every time, line up, knock him down. If they can't get Zeke to help block, if they can't, slide a tight end to chip block him, find a way to keep him from coming to Dak, that is going to be where the Cowboys lose this game. If Dak doesn't have those 2 seconds, 1-2 to be able to get that thing out, make a couple quick reads and throw it, it's going to be a tough day for him. He's going to be running for his life. The receivers are going to be doing all kinds of scramble drills. So I really think that, it comes down to Cowboys win if the weapons have a great day. Cowboys lose if Joey Bosa has a great day. That's really what we're looking at here, is what are Kellen Moore and Coach McCarthy going to do to make sure that we don't see a repeat of the Atlanta Falcons from a couple years ago when we let some no-name guy get 6 sacks because we let Chaz Green play by himself for 3 quarters. without any help. Now, obviously, this is a different coaching staff. There's no Jason Garrett in here, no Scott Linehan, none of those guys that were kind of running the show. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that that will not be the case, but that remains to be seen. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that, and hopefully Joey Bosa doesn't come and bring the house down tomorrow during the game. My final win-loss prediction. Last week, I was very close. And it was unfortunate that I was very close because I picked us to lose 34-31. We lost 31-29. This week, I am also hopeful that I'm going to be close on my score because I got the Cowboys win, baby. Cowboys are going to take this game. Dak's not going to let us go 0-2. The weapons are going to be too good. I trust Kellen Moore, Coach McCarthy. They're going to find a way to, I don't know about neutralize Joey Bosa. He may still get home a couple times. I mean, he's one of the best edge defenders in the league, period. But I think they're going to do enough to give Dak enough time to make enough plays. And while Justin Herbert is great and he has great receivers, it's not what we saw from the Bucs last week. And again, the Bucs don't have the defense, or the Chargers don't have the defense that the Bucs had last week either. And we got beat by 2 points. So I'm feeling pretty good, even in spite of, the long list of roster injuries. I got a feeling that the Cowboys are going to pull this one out. I think they're going to score more than they did last week, and I think they're going to allow less points. So I've got it a fairly wide margin when it comes to betting standards, at least, if you will. And I'm going to go the Cowboys 31 and the Chargers 25. That's almost a touchdown win for your boys, and I feel good about it, y'all. I'm telling you, these guys are ready to play on offense. They're ready to run with anybody. And we saw some good things out of the defense. We're down a few people, but so is everybody else in the league. The Ravens have lost 17 running backs already, and it's only week 2. This is how it is, especially with some of the COVID stuff. Everybody's going through this. Every team is finding a way, or has to find a way to persevere, find a way to win. And I think the Cowboys get it done this week. That's all I got for the show this evening, y'all. Short and sweet. Tyler should be with me for the recap next week. So you'll see his bright, shiny, smiley face and that wonderful, deep baritone voice that he has to share with everybody here in a couple days. Outside of that, y'all, if you get some time, leave some comments in the chat. Let me know what you think. Let me know how I did on my first solo show. First time ever going on to any kind of broadcast by myself. So let me know what you think. Give me some love in the chats if you love it. Give us some likes, some subscribes, all that good stuff to help that YouTube algorithm tell the world that this is a good show. I'll holler at y'all later, peeps. Tomorrow is going to be a great day when we take home that W. Let's go, Cowboys.